Yeah. You can talk. You can talk.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me again on The Mandate, live on IG Talk Show. I am Darryl the Mentor. You can follow me at Darryl the Mentor. You can also go to our the Mandate Talk Show IG Live on YouTube. There is content there. So grateful and honored to have everyone here. And I am going to be joined by my man Rex. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I purposely didn't talk to him since we did our last show, the part one, uh, purposely because I know how me and him get down in conversation, and I was not going to allow us to have a quote normal conversation without it being broadcast and affecting the people that we want to affect and infect. So listen, turn Rex, how you doing? Turn your light on for me because it's a little dark,
Okay, give me 1 second.
a little bit. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the mandate. This is a platform for Black men to highlight Black men. Some of the topics that we're going to talk about on this particular show: business ownership, fatherhood, transparency, forgiveness, community, financial literacy, education, sex, abstinence, prayer, meditation. Just a whole gas, nothing off limits. And it's for resolution, transformation, understanding, and women. We definitely want you to be a part of it because where would we be without you? There is no us without you. And you have held us down for so long. You have been, quote unquote, the fathers, the men in the family, the priest in the house. So we definitely want to have you be a part because I want you to know your brothers, your fathers, your fiancés, your boyfriends, and have an understanding about your husbands, what makes them tick, things of that nature, so that you could be better informed and you can have the information and the knowledge and wisdom that you need to be in your relationship. And listen, without further ado, my man Rex. Rex, I don't want to butcher your last name. So this is my friend Rex. Give me your last name, Rex.
Chege, like reggae.
Chege. This is Rex Chege. He is he has a podcast called The King's Tale. Awesome. I love the king. You know I love the king.
Yes,
you
sir.
know I gotta be the king. Listen, anything with a king, I'm with a crown, all that. And I had the pleasure and opportunity of meeting him at a conference that my wife, Kendella Niece, was speaking at. And he was there. I was being Stedman. I was, working the table, carrying her luggage, carrying the T-shirts and all of that stuff like that. And I noticed Rex, and me and my wife actually noticed Rex, and another friend of mine, Ira, who I had the privilege of working with some years ago in workforce development. And me and my wife happened to be walking in the hall, and I noticed the young brother who had a tapered, tailored, pink or almost salmon-colored suit on, fitted, thin cut. I mean, clack, 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 clack. That thing was with the shoes. You know, you always gotta have a crazy sock game. You had the crazy socks, and when the pants slid up just so, the sock just came out of nowhere on you. Then he had on a cream-colored, like a short turtleneck, and he had on the glasses. Had the hair. Listen, natural curls now. Natural curls. The brother was sharp. But what I'm saying to you guys is, and the topic of the show is, Black men who stand out and stand up. And me and my wife, and I said to my wife, I said, baby, I was so rocked the hell out of that suit right there. So rocky. And I want to say this to him and say it to everybody listening. The clothes don't make the man or the woman, or let me say it in a spiritual form, the anointing makes the clothes. And this brother's anointing shot out at me so powerfully, I had to just go meet the brother, because he was one of two men at a quote unquote primarily woman's business conference. And when I tell you the brother was writing, the brother had his notes, the brother was taking notes down and making moves with what was being said to him from the mentors and the servant leaders that were there. It was an awesome conference. So I want to present my man, young blood, young king, Prince Rex. What's going on, man?
Hey, thank you so much once again.
I purposely, though I've been praying for you and us in this channel and your stuff and everything you're doing and men in general, I purposely said I can't call because I wanted our interaction and stuff we probably would say just naturally one to another, mentoring and sharpening one another on the phone. I wanted and had to have you here to do it, because we started talking after part one,
Right.
off after the show was off, and I said, "Oh, hold it." it was too. Listen, it was too much. God was all in the mix, man. It was too much. But listen, on the topic of tonight, Black men, Black kings. This is part two for everybody who didn't go see part one. Go back and see part one. On a mandate talk show live on YouTube. You can find it. Black men, Black kings who stand up and stand out. Tell me what that means to you and for you.
You know, sometimes we kind of need reminders to what it is that we do in life and what our purpose is. And yesterday, I got a pretty clear-cut reminder of what standing up and standing out really means. My brother and I went to Ocean City yesterday, and, you know, we actually got to spend some, like, quality time together, which, honestly, it's something that we haven't been able to do nearly as much as we used to. Yeah. So one thing that my little brother said to me that really, like, I was like, wow, I don't know what it is that makes me so deserving, but I really am grateful for, you know, the position that God has me in as an older brother, as a mentor, as a Black man. But he had told me, like, you know, everything that you do, everything that you stand up for, your character, your integrity, and your morals, it's truly inspirational for me, and you're one of my biggest inspirations.
Wow.
So when I heard that, I was like, oh, wow. Like, it almost brought me to tears, because sometimes you don't really realize some of the stuff it is that you're doing until someone that you don't even think is paying attention to you says something really encouraging like that. And especially, like, when you come from a place of, like I talked about in the previous episode, of, like, low self-esteem or low self-confidence, when people tell you stuff like that, it really does boost you up. And I always got to remind myself always to practice humility and give thanks to God first and foremost, because if it was not for him, I would not be where I'm at right now.
Yeah. That how old is your younger brother, and what's the difference in age, and how old are you? Let them know how old you are.
Okay, so I'm 23. I actually just recently graduated from college, the Wesley College in Dover, Delaware. My younger brother after me, he is 21. There's 2 years between us, and then our youngest brother, he is 11 going on 12. Actually in a couple days, June 8th.
Yeah. So you're and it's so important that you mentioned that brief story about what happened just yesterday. We often, as servant keyword leaders, a lot of the time we're the subject of whatever God is working through us and on us with. And for your younger brother to, first of all, as a Black young man, to be honest, truthful, and transparent with you, to you, probably at a time when you needed it the most, or you just needed it, I think that's powerful. Because there's always, you know, brother to brother, of course you love your brother and all that, but at those ages that you say you're 23, he's 21, and
Yeah.
your wisdom at 23, his wisdom at 21, and you hear women and you hear men, you hear, you know, other races talk about our young Black youth, and our young Black youth, they say things like the X generation, the devil is a lie. I always say this is the Jesus generation. And because the millennials are so important to the legacy and heritage of the future of individual families, as well as of the Black community, for you and your younger brother to be the role models, I'm speaking it into existence as it already is, to even have a mature conversation, 21 and 23. You two, just in what you said, are giving so many mothers that are on the line and fathers that are on the line whose sons and or daughters may be temporarily, keyword, temporarily, seemingly to the eye, wayward, or not listening, or not wanting to hear. You and your brother have just demonstrated that you can be vulnerable, honest, intelligent, and wisdom is not always equated with an age bracket.
Come on here.
Tell me now from your heart, tell me what he said to you and what it meant to you. I'm talking from the heart.
The main overarching topic for our conversation was essentially working through issues and learning how to separate people's bad personas from their good personas. You know, just being completely honest and transparent, like through both of our childhoods, you know, sometimes the things that we experienced with our father weren't always the best. And he had dealt with alcoholism.
Okay.
And it was something that really put us under a tremendous amount of stress and pressure. But, you know, fortunately enough, at least for me, I was able to learn how to, in a sense, separate the alcoholism persona and like my dad's true persona, like, and then learn how, first and foremost, the biggest thing that I had to learn was forgiveness and working through differences. Because when you deal with someone who comes from a place of hurt and they hurt you, you're always going to carry around that unforgiveness until you're willing to let it go for yourself. And so I really had to, because it's something that, you know, my younger brother has struggled with. And like I was telling him, like, at the end of the day, like, I think sometimes too, when the kids are looking up to the parents, you tend to believe that, you know, that they're these perfect beings, and you know, they're not going to make any mistakes, they're not going to do any bad by you, and you think that everything, especially when you're a young kid, you always think that everything's just going to be like peaches and cream. And then the older you get, you start to realize that our parents are human too, and they are going to make mistakes, they're going to have faults, they're going to fall short, but at the end of the day, we got to learn to work alongside with them and to, you know, really just accept each other for our differences and realize that the expectations that we place on them and the expectations that they place on us sometimes aren't very realistic, and we have to, you know, reel ourselves back in and take a moment of like reflection and introspection and just remind ourselves, like, hey, they are just as human as we are, and we're just as human as they are.
Yes. I think something you said, man, I'm gonna let everybody, you 23. And what you just said was filled with wisdom. And what I heard in a spiritual realm or in a religious realm is separate the sin from the sinner.
Mm-hmm.
You said your father had struggled with alcohol, and you were able at 23 to separate the sin of alcoholism or alcohol and the effects it had on your family with the sinner. You were able to separate, this is my father, but this is something that he temporarily is being attacked with or been dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
That is crucial. And you said something else that was really key as far as Black fathers of multiple, fathers of different races, what have you, but Black fathers primarily. We, with our sons, have to be transparent, honest, forthcoming, showing not just all the strength always without the intimate side or the, for lack of a better word, feminine side of yourself. We have to be with our sons transparent as parents, mothers and fathers. We have to be transparent about the struggles and about the things we experience and about perception. Because what I hear you also say in that story is that your perception of your father's alcoholism as a Black king with alcohol issues, but your brother perceived it maybe differently than you was and maybe took a different road and you took it. Talk about that a little bit.
Again, going back to the whole dealing with hurt thing, looking at it from a psychological perspective, if you've ever seen an abused animal, typically they're apprehensive, and if you back them up in the corner, they're going to get defensive. So when someone has been through abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, mental, you're always going to be a bit wary, especially when someone portrays either the same behaviors or character traits that your abuser once had. So in a sense, you're always going to be a little hesitant when you're dealing with people like that. And I actually did this past Saturday, I did a mental health workshop on suicide ideation, and suicide prevention, given the fact that it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And one of the biggest points that I made was, as a person, you have to identify the traumatic events that you've been through. And not only do you have to identify them, you have to acknowledge them, and you also have to know what your triggers are. And once you're able to identify those two things and acknowledge them for what they are, you've already, not only do you know yourself, you also are able to recognize your enemy. And so whenever you find yourself in that type of situation, you're not only are you know that it's a situation that's meant to test you, but you're also going to be able to remind yourself, okay, this is a test, and I know how I used to respond in the past, but that's not going to work anymore. So I have to pick up on cues, whether it's breathing techniques, remove myself from the situation, or altogether just avoiding the environment entirely. That's when you'll be able to realize, okay, I know what it is now, and it's not going to trip me up the same way that it might have tripped me up 3 years ago. I'm in a completely different mind space. And the place where you left me at before is not where I'm at right now.
Yes. Yo, that's, boy, well, you said a mouthful. That is so profound, brother. For a 23-year-old king, brother, I'm going to tell you, there are people who are my age and older. This is why you can never throw anybody away. You can never write anyone off. They may look like trash today, but in every piece of trash, there is somebody's treasure. You never know what gift is wrapped inside that paper and in that box, and what it fully holds. And when you talked about, and you reminded me of what you said on our last part one. Tell everybody about standing up and standing out as you had to do in college, either as a freshman or sophomore, with the peer pressure. Let's go here, let's go there, let's go drink, which you know is something that at least your father dealt with in that perception. Tell us about what you had to do and how you had to handle that in college as a freshman with the peer pressure as a Black king. Talk about that.
So I'll start it off with attire because that was the first thing that you said you and your wife noticed when you guys noticed me at the PLE. So it's really funny because I was just hanging out with a really good friend of mine that, you know, he stuck with me all the way through undergrad. So him and I are like this. That's my guy. So we were just talking like.
Was that Ira?
Oh no, it's actually one of my boys. His name is Evan.
Okay.
So
shout out to Evan. Shout out to Evan.
He was my resident assistant when I was a freshman. He was a sophomore. So like he literally watched me from the time I was a freshman up until I just graduated. So one of the funny things about me is like when I first came to college, I was wearing khaki shorts, the little button up like resort shirts with a bow tie and knee-high socks and some Pumas. And he said that was the first thing that he noticed about me that stood out. Like my willingness and my, you know, openness to dress how I wanted to be.
Yes.
And he said one thing that he likes about people is when they're able to be real and just be themselves unapologetically. And that was one thing that, like, no matter where I was always going to express myself, because I think one thing that I've learned in life is people are going to say and think anything about you, but at the end of the day, you're the captain of your ship, and you have to, you know, you have to handle it accordingly.
Yes. Hey, listen, that was the preppy look what you was talking about with the socks and you was rolling, brother. You was rolling.
Yeah.
And you know, again, even talking about the dress, but when you even the suit, and again, what got me was the color, because what they say, which is a lie, that real men don't wear pink. However, real men wear any color you want to. Because my wife will tell you, color, green and purple and orange and the yellows and all that, or the plaids, anything unique, I love it. But tell me in college what you went through, and we talked a little bit about it last week, what you went through as far as maybe not hanging out, or when you started to understand and know whose you were, who your higher power was, your Lord and your Savior was, in the midst of sophomore, junior, or freshman year.
Oh, okay. I got you. This one in particular didn't really start really happening until my senior year. As a matter of fact, it was right around when COVID started. Like, I was getting a lot more involved in church. I wasn't going out nearly as much as I used to. And, you know, a lot of my boys that were in my circle at the time were starting to notice that. They'd be like, yo, Rex, how come you're not coming out as much? You know, how come you're not, you know, we invited you to parties, you know, we got our own section. Like, you know, you're going to be well taken care of. How come you're not coming out no more? I had to let them know, like, I outgrew that, and where they're at is not where I want to be anymore. I had a bigger vision for myself, and I knew that if I stayed where they were at, then everything that God had promised me wasn't going to come to pass. And I needed to not only separate myself, but also elevate myself and remind myself, like, there is something greater for me than, you know, partying every weekend or smoking every weekend or drinking every weekend or, you know, doing the typical stuff that everyone else around me was doing. And I think once you get to a point where you want it bad enough, that's when you're going to really take that first step forward to be like, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice and remain disciplined and obedient in order to get to where I need to be. Not where I want to be, but where I need to be, where God needs me to be.
Yeah. That's key what you said, the discipline. Because when you know, when you have a relationship, not religion, but when you have a relationship with God, your inward will start to transform first, then it will project outwardly. And you, as a young 23-year-old freshman, sophomore, junior, set a standard in sanctification, holiness, not perfectness, but perfect becoming. And I'm telling you, that's encouraging. That alone. Because we tend to believe or tend to think based off what we see, not what we see. We tend to believe that the younger generation is lost. All the lies that that media and the right and different enemies would have us believe that, you know, there's no hope, all this kind of stuff. But you and many others are prime examples of young kings, young black men, young entrepreneurs who are in the midst of the pressure of being a young individual in a new or newer millennial. And prime example, my stepdaughters are the same way. Aaliyah and Amara, college graduates, doing their thing, moving in their own direction, quote unquote. And I give so many kudos to my wife, Kendall Denise, and so many black mothers and single parent fathers, because we out here,
yep, are
doing it. And I always say, you're not, and my wife said this, let me give her the proper credit. My wife said, as long as you're not a single parent, as long as you have a single relationship with God.
Wow.
You're never a single parent as long as you have a relationship, not religion, with God. You're never alone, because he said, I will never leave you, never forsake you.
Never.
And though you make your bed in hell, I will be there with you.
Woo.
Be there with you.
Oh my gosh.
You are, I'm telling you, brother, listen, you're a prime example, because I'm just looking back at my own life and thinking of the willful things that I got into because of not knowing who I was, or partially knowing who I was, or allowing or not fully knowing my identity. The importance of a black father is important. Ladies, you have to allow the fathers in your kids' life the opportunity, once they prove it by actions, that they are and should be in their life. Because I'm a firm believer that you need men to raise men, and not that men can't, because I'm a single father of a daughter and stepdaughters as well. But it is so important for us to stand up and stand out and be in our places. Tell me the importance of your father in your life, and tell me the importance first of your father in your life, and when you had to break out even from, or cut the umbilical cord even from your father, because you knew your purpose was different from where he was going.
That's a good one. That's a good one. To put it simply, I will say that, because sometimes I feel like young men that don't have their father in their lives, really all they're missing is just that presence and that guidance. Sometimes it really is important for the father just to be there, and not only be there, but also be supportive. And that's one thing that I could definitely attribute to my father. Whatever it was that I had going on, or whatever it was that my little brother had going on, whether it was a celebration, an academic celebration, a dance, a game, a track meet, or a cross-country meet, he was there, faithful. Yeah. He would call off from work and make sure that he was there. And that's something that's always going to stick with me, the fact that he was present and there to support me. And that's something that I'll never take for granted. Like, one thing that I love is when, because I think the most valuable thing in our lives is time. And when people are able to dedicate that time to you, that says something. Yes. So that's something that always has stuck with me. In the area in which I felt like I needed to cut the umbilical cord and really take off on my own, is I felt at times that, have you ever heard of a helicopter parent, the one that's kind of hover over the kid and try to supervise everything and throw advice at you?
The kid. Yeah.
Yeah, like they'll throw advice at you, and they'll disguise that as advice, but what they really want you to do is do it their way. And if you don't do it their way, then they kind of get a little upset.
Yeah.
That's kind of how my dad was at times.
Okay.
And so that's where I kind of had to cut the umbilical cord and be like, all right, this is my life. I'll go out and experience things on my own. I may fall, but at least I gave it a try, and I'll never know what'll come out of it. And
Yes.
there were certain things that my father was against that at times I felt I couldn't do. But then once I, broke free from that, and I was like, all right, let me make my own decisions and make new friends. Let me go out here and see who's willing to help me out instead of always extending my hand out and trying to help others, like seeing who out there really required like assistance specifically from me.
Yes.
And then I think that's when I was able to really start networking and connecting with the people that I'm connected with now.
Yeah. That's it. That's important, man. You said the table right there. You said because I believe your network is your net worth.
Mm.
And I also believe eagles don't hang with pigeons. Because when you think about pigeons, you think about them flying very low or at very low altitudes. And you often see pigeons eating off the ground or eating the waste or eating the things that aren't good. But when you think about eagles, though they may fly in a pack, you often see them at higher altitudes. And their vision and their scope or their distance in which they can fly is a lot broader and a lot wider. And I really hear you saying you had to change some folk. I hear you saying you had to not get new on them in the sense of, I'm going to cut you completely off. And probably some you had to. But I hear you saying I had to go to another level or another dimension in and around people who either had what you desired,
mm-hmm.
or that people that you knew had something that God wanted to further build and grow in you. Talk a little bit about choices, positive choices, and how important that is for you.
One of the best things that I heard it actually came from one of my good friends. His name is Daquan Martin. He said, in this life, everybody has a choice. And that couldn't be any more true. Sometimes we try to, project our insecurities and our problems and our mishaps on other people, when in actuality, if we just looked at ourselves in the mirror, we would realize that at the end of the day, we're the ones that are responsible for making the choices that we made. So in that regard, when it comes down to things, especially as a man, you have to, there are going to be choices that are either going to, in certain situations, make or break you. So it really is important for you, before you make that choice, God gave us 2 ears and 2 eyes to listen and to look before we make a decision.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, it really is important that, I think one of the biggest things that I try and use on a daily basis is critical thinking. Sometimes being, as my apostle says, being an overthinker sometimes really doesn't help me, but I had to learn how to differentiate between overthinking and critical thinking.
Yes.
And really looking into a situation and being able to discern when something's good for me and when it's not. And, when it comes down to those big, important decisions, those choices, you got to make sure that it is 100% in your mind and collection, the proper choice.
Yeah. And man, I hear you. And I also know in teaching in my field, workforce development, teaching, instruction, working with ex-offenders, working with people with degrees, no degrees, GD. People are looking to find out who they are and And I always tell them, I always say, if you can find what you're passionate about, what brings you to tears, what moves you, then you are the answer, and you are supposed to move in that area or that field. If you're sick and tired, for instance, if you're sick and tired of seeing young men with their pants hanging down on the corner, that might be your ministry.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? If you're passionate about whatever it is you're passionate about, driven about, not just be busy, but be productive in, that very well may be your passion. Go ahead. You like you ready to say something?
Oh man, that was a good one. That was a real good one.
Busy, being either busy, because you hear a lot of people say, I'm busy. But are you productive is the point. And you hear a lot of people, and I always hear a lot, and I always ask this question in my classes. I always ask them, is knowledge power? Yeah, knowledge is power. Oh yeah, I believe that. Knowledge is power. And I say, no, it's not. No, it's not. Knowledge is not power. It is you being productive and moving with the knowledge. Being active, activate the knowledge. It's not the knowledge itself. The knowledge itself is just the knowledge. But if you don't activate the knowledge, just like faith without works is dead. You can't pray about something and not do something about what you're praying about.
Right.
You cannot expect God to do all the work, bring it to your front door, and you not go out the door and go towards what you're asking him to give you or do for you. You're either going to pray or work. One or the other.
Right.
No middle ground. Tell me about as a black man, as a black young king. We great go here. We great go there. How important is prayer, intercessor, in your life?
That's one of my core foundations. I feel in order for God to really work in your life, like you said, you have to have relationship over religion. Like you have to know. You have to know that as long as I'm able to, I think, and really what it is, this is something that I've learned through Bible study. I feel like sometimes when people pray, they just have that monologue, that one-way talk. I'll be like, all right, God, I'm going to tell you what's going on in my life. I'm going to drop it off to you. And I really don't have enough time to hear anything that you have to say back to me.
Hold it.
When I learned that through Bible study, I was like, whoa.
Wait.
That is so critical. Again.
Somebody, I want everybody to know he's 23. Say that again. Because people need, say that again, man. Say about that two-way dialogue. Say that again.
It's so critical to have a dialogue with God and not just a monologue where you're saying things, dropping it off to him, and just being like, all right, I really don't have time or the patience to wait for you to respond back to me, because God isn't going to talk to you right then and there most of the time. So it really is important for you to really just take that time to just be quiet and listen. Shut off everything. Put your phone down. Get off of social media. Turn off your music, and really just get on your face and pray and just listen, because God is going to drop something on you. And when he does it, sometimes one thing I love about him is he won't directly say it to you. He'll use somebody else around you or something. You'll be listening, whether you might be listening to your favorite song and one line sticks out to you, and it might have been something that you've been praying about for a month, and God just drops the answer on you right then and there. Or you're in conversation with a complete stranger. They don't know nothing about your life, but they say one thing about the thing that you've been praying about forever. And you're like, God, now I know you didn't just use this person to drop something in my spirit. And you'll be looking crazy for a while, but then it'll finally register. And that's, I think for me, and my folks will tell you, I'm a crier. When things hit me, I start to cry. And sometimes it's a good, like, hysterical, joyful cry, or I'm overcome by grief because I'm like, what did I do to deserve your blessings and your mercy, God? And he
Yes.
continues to do it for me consistently and continuously. I'm like, I really don't know what it is that I've done to deserve your grace and your mercy because of all the ugliness that's in me. But
Yes.
when I receive it, I'm telling you, humility is the biggest thing for me, and gratitude, humility and gratitude. Once you're able to really, especially as whether it doesn't matter your title, your position, but as a servant of God, those are two of the biggest character traits that you can possess. Because if you aren't able to size yourself down and always feel like you're undeserving, you're never ever going to be able to truly experience the God grace and mercy.
Yeah, man, that listen, that prayer piece for Black men, Black young women, because we need to really understand that to stand up and stand out, in order for it to be demonstrated outwardly, we have to go in the secret place. We got to go into the closet. We have to go into the bathroom, the shower. As I was talking with a friend of mine earlier on the last show, he told me the bathroom for a lot of us is that place. The shower is that place.
The shower.
When he told me he had a stool, a chair or stool that he sat in the tub with the water coming, with the rinsing, with the confession, with the repenting, with the forgiveness, with the grace, with the dialogue and the conversation. We Black men, kings, Black queens, we need to have a place in our home that we call our secret place, our closet, your man cave, if that's what you want, your woman cave, if that's what you want. We need to have our place of an altar in there, because like I always say, it's not about the religion, it's about the relationship with God. It's not about us sitting in church, which is important. Don't get that twisted.
Absolutely.
It's important. But we too often are sitting light on light. We're not discipling people. We're not doing enough of it because we're sitting amongst the people that we already know.
Oh my gosh.
Are saved. And you know what? I thank God in some ways for Corona.
Right.
Because prior to Corona, me and a few of my friends in our organization, we have Outcast Food Network, we were talking, my friend Lawrence and Sanders and I were talking about no four walls. That was one of the mottos, no four walls. No four walls meaning get outside of the church building. For anybody who doesn't know, the church is not the building. The church is the believer, is you and I. That's what the church is. That's where the building and the rebuilding is. The church is not the building, not the brick and mortar. The church is the person, the individual, the believer, the follower of Christ, and the biblical principles being your foundation. And brother, let me say to you, when you as a young college student, you as just graduated, now moving into or going into the business market, I believe in kingdom business. The same with my daughters, my stepdaughters who are in college now. One just got a job now, straight out of college. She just graduated. Mara just graduated from college yesterday. Just got a job today with a scholarship. You hear what I'm saying? But it's because of the power of prayer. That praying mother, that praying grandmother. Because I know for myself, when I was living the way I was living, I remember my mom asking me to come to the church. Times when I was coming in from the club that morning, high, gun in my pocket, weed in my pocket, halfway there. And every time I looked up on that prayer, that bulletin, I always saw my name on the prayer list along with, quote, the sick and the shut-in. And I would be like, Mom, why you always got me on the prayer list with the sick and the shut-in? I ain't sick. I'm not sick. But let me tell you, and for anybody watching, the Black brothers, the Black mothers, prayer avails much. I don't care how long you've been praying. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if they're incarcerated in prison. I don't care if they're strung out. Prayer is a powerful weapon in the hands of a believer who will not stop, who believes beyond what their circumstances are dictating to them.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, Rex, tell me, 23-year-old King, tell me, do you have in your home a prayer closet, an altar? Tell me, for the people who don't believe that their 23 and 20 and 21s and 24s and 5s can be at that place. Tell me what's in your house. Tell me how you got it. Tell me how he told you to orchestrate it.
My personal place of worship is the shower. Like, it sometimes I'm so sensitive to the spirit. Like, I'll take a 5-minute shower and had a full-blown conversation with God where, like, him and I are just going back and forth, or he's dropping things on me, and, like, I just come out of there so charged up. Like, sometimes, like, my family be looking at me like, yo, this guy is crazy. But it works. And when you're really just able to tap in with God in your own personal place of worship, like, and sometimes it isn't always the shower, but, like, that's the main place that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, I always make an effort. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not doing anything. I'm getting down on my face and I'm praying and talking to God. And first and foremost, just telling him I'm grateful for him waking me up for one more day. Like,
Yeah.
because it's not promised. It is not
Mhm.
promised. And so many people, you know, they go to bed at night thinking that, you know, they're just they take everything for granted. They wake up the next day or they don't wake up the next day.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want that to be a thing. So first thing in the morning when I wake up, and even throughout the day, I'm thanking him for certain things that are happening, whether it's, you know, things at work, you know, having the opportunity to interact with people that may be going through a tough patch. And I say something that's really encouraging for them, or God uses me to, you know, boost them up and really just remind them that, hey, you know, what it is that you're going through, it's only temporary and you're going to overcome it. Giving thanks in that aspect. And then before I go to sleep, like, you know, God, just taking a moment to reflect on the day.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're able to, like, really appreciate the smaller things, one of the biggest things that I heard growing up is appreciate the small victories, because the small victories end up eventually helping you win the war.
Yes.
So once you're able to appreciate the little things, and I think more than anything, focus on the small positives instead of the big negatives.
Yeah.
Those small positives, if you're able to focus on them enough, they'll be able to conquer those big negatives that you used to worry about.
Yeah. The small obtainable goals. The small obtainable step-by-step processing goals. The thing you said that was really, that I heard as well, that was hugely important, is dialogue. Dialoguing with God, not just bombarding him with the same old thing every day, but also saying it, leaving it there, and then listening, waiting to hear. And like you said, it always won't come right away, because he wants to see and know, are you going to be diligent, consistent, intense about it, or about him, in what you say you want. It's not going to be just, oh, okay, I'm going to pray this quick prayer. Okay, thank you, Lord, blah, 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 all the time. He wants to know, listen, Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Seek ye first. And when you do that first, and when he becomes the foundation of your life, you can, black man, stand up. Back to our topic, you can stand out. You can come out from amongst them, though you're still amongst them, right?
Right.
Wherever you are, whether it's in your business, in the business marketplace, in college, in school, youth programs, in prison. As I go into the prisons, Man, the prisons, a lot of the time, he will allow you to take that detour. He will allow you to take the detour into prison physical, or a prison mental, or spiritual, or religious, so that you can come out as pure gold in the process. See, we always want the good, now, right now, microwave. We put stuff in the microwave, but we don't even allow that to go for a minute. We're pulling it out with 10 minutes left on it.
Right.
We're not fully cooking the meal. We think it's hot because the little portion we've tasted seems to be hot. But once you get into the middle, it's ice cold, because we need more patience. And a lot of time, he will allow us to be stretched. That thing that you young lady and you young man believe that, oh, I can't do this no more, this, oh, I can't take this any longer, I can't take this suffering any longer, he'll stretch you. And then you begin to understand, know, and see, like, wow, I could do this. I could do that. Man, listen. Listen. Tell people what's on your heart right now. I don't even want to. What's on your heart right now? What thing is on your heart right now that is important to you to relay, or that he's moving you to release to the people?
One thing that you just said that really stuck with me is the fact about that whole patience thing and not trying to rush, because I feel like that's something that's definitely particular with my generation now, with the smartphones and the technology and social media and everything being in our face. We think that it has to happen now. Like, I have to have, a lot of us are, and that's something that I really had to put in perspective is, I'm only 23. The life expectancy of a black man in America, although shorter on average than a white man in America, is still 70 years. I'm 23. Yeah. That means I have 47 more years of life ahead of me.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't. They always try to see things in the now and not the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important to take into consideration that what it is that we're doing right now is setting the foundation for the remainder of our lives.
Yes.
And if we rush building the foundation, it's almost like shifting sand. It's not going to stick. You build a house on there, guess what? The waves come in and they tug some of that sand away. Now you don't got a house anymore. But if you're able to build it on solid ground, and not only have solid ground set, but have God as the chief cornerstone of your foundation, and stay rooted by reading that word daily, and that's when you'll start to learn, okay, a lot of the things that I was trying to rush before, they'll come in due time. I used to be so pressed because I was like, okay, I don't have the income to do a lot of the things that I want to do, especially traveling.
Yeah.
But I stayed down. I remained humble just this past semester, I had to, at the beginning of the year, I had to quit my job that was paying me $15 an hour, which where I'm at currently, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then having to work for 10 weeks with no source of income and not knowing how I was going to be able to pay my bills, how I was going to sustain myself, how I was going to feed myself. But again, it's crazy how God works, because everything that I desired, I laid it out as a sacrifice to God. And I was like, God, whatever it is that you need me to do, I will do it humbly, faithfully, and obediently. And I once I put my hand on that plow, I'm not going to renege. And that was really, really critical for me, because I was coming from a place of pride, and I really had to learn how to sacrifice and really just practice that humility. And once I was able to do that, Darryl, just speaking from a place of transparency, in the past 3 months alone, I don't even know where it came from.
That's that God math. That's that God math.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. I remember there was a day where I had 72 cents in my bank account. I had 3 bills due on that Friday. I said, God, I know the type of man that you are and what you've done for me in the past. I have the utmost faith that everything will get handled.
Yes.
Within a week, my bank account went from 72 cents to $5,500. I have never, ever in my life touched that much money before. And the first thing that I said when that money hit my bank account was, thank you, God. You are
God,
faithful.
man,
And once
don't
again,
make sense.
the devil
God,
is
man.
defeated.
Listen, man, we got a few minutes, man. Listen, we got a few minutes. How can people get in touch with you? Give us all your handles, all your goodies, man, because, brother, go ahead, man.
All right. So for those that are looking to connect with me on the social media platforms, you can find me on Instagram at K1NGSIGMA _. That is King Sigma with a 1 and an underscore at the end. And you can also tune in to my podcast, which is on all streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can find it under King's Tales, KING_S TALES. And the creator is REX, last name CHEGE.
Man, listen, thank you, brother. You are my brother.
Thank you
are
for
my
having me.
son. You represent the Jesus generation. Son, I'm telling you, you have blessed somebody up on, I know I'm overflow. You have blessed somebody, you've given somebody encouragement. You've let somebody know what their sons and daughters may be going through, their husbands, their spouses is only temporary. Because we cannot conquer what we do not confront. And all I know is take it to the Lord. Brother, because sometimes you hanging on by some hangnails. They're not even fingernails. You hanging on by you know what I'm saying? But listen, man.
About 72 cents.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This has been the Mandate Talk Show Live. You can I am Darryl the Mentor. You can follow me at Darryl the Mentor. Darryl the Mandate Talk Show is on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube. Check us out. Please follow my man. What was that, producer?
Subscribe to
King's Tales, the podcast series.
Subscribe to the YouTube page and the King's Tale. Thank you, everybody. God bless. Be blessed. Have a prosperous evening. See you on next Monday, Lord willing. God bless. Talk with
Thank
you
you
soon.
again, Darryl.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Yes, yes. Everybody have a blessed night and a blessed week.